Church and your guest speaker this morning. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. We welcome all of you. It is good to be together this morning. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. At the top of our online service, we want to invite you to please remain muted throughout the service. Broadcast delays turn our attempts to sing or speak in unison into a cacophony, which can disturb the flow and experience of worship. As we gather this morning, we want to invite you to pop in to the chat and offer a greeting. You can find this at the top or the bottom of your screen with an icon of a text bubble and the word chat. So please pop on over and offer a greeting. It could be a wave of hello or an I'm here or whatever you prefer. Welcome to First Universalist. Good morning. I invite you now to stretch your fingers away from your keyboard. If it feels like your hard-working fingers might appreciate some movement, please join me for some finger play I learned when I was a kid in Sunday school. Here is the church. Here is the steeple. Open the door, and here are the people. We come together today, on this day when church has left the building, knowing that here are the people. And here in our hearts is the church. Let us join hearts and voices in singing together this morning, recognizing that even as we are singing muted in our own home, we are creating a song across our city of Rochester and the country. Let us sing together hymn 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Good morning, church family. I have a few powerful little quotes to share with you. These are all from moms. The first is from Mandy Shaw. For a kindergarten worksheet, my 5-year-old was supposed to answer the question, if you could teach everyone one thing, what would it be? His answer was meditation. The next is from Cassidy Clifford Edwards. After seeing a pretty nice spider web, my aunt said, that's a pretty web, but I don't like spiders though. My 6-year-old in a serious tone replied, you have to appreciate the spider to appreciate the web. And Allison Foxford says, my 3-year-old said to me, it's okay if she isn't kind to me. I can show her how. And last from Tanya Niedzwicki. When I asked my 5-year-old son how his day was, he said, it was awesome. I asked him, what made it so awesome? His response was, because I wanted it to be. So often we say, out of the mouths of babes, not a dismissal, but a recognition of the wisdom inherent in children, unsallied by all that lived life can bring to beliefs. Often what children can offer to the dialogue is fresh, honest, clear, and confident. Today we'll take some time to honoring the contributions that the children Tess knows have made to our larger church conversation, a true fountain of youthful knowledge and kindness. Come, let us worship together. And as I light our chalice, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. And will you now join me in saying our affirmation of faith and singing the doxology together? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Financially supporting social justice initiatives in our community is a wonderful opportunity to carry on the UU tradition of generous giving. Today, the recipient of our plate offering is Teen Empowerment. Teen Empowerment, a nonprofit since 2003, has employed hundreds of Rochester youth who have engaged thousands of their peers, adults, and community leaders in youth-led initiatives. Working in Southwest Rochester, open mic nights, peace barbecues, and other safe social gatherings where youth use the arts to share ideas and inspiring positive messages. Youth also organize and facilitate group sessions and forums that create deep and meaningful dialogue among teens and between youth and adults, community leaders, educators, and police. Teen empowerment youth organizers work on policy initiatives that engage public officials, bring youth voice to decision-making, and work to bring institutional and systemic change. You can click the link in the chat to give directly to teen empowerment. And if you are first-time visitors, please feel free to let the online basket pass you by, as you are our treasured guest.
Out into her yard, and there, huddled together in the shadows of the trees, were all the animals of the forest. A soft and silvery brown wolf stepped forward, with his tail low to the ground. Please help us, he whispered. The forest is broken. We don't know where to go. The giants are ruining our home.
There's a thing I have to change. It's when I share the screen.
Good morning, friends. Reverend Michelle here with our story. Greta and the Giants, inspired by Greta Thunberg's stand to save the world. Written by Zoe Tucker and Zoe Persico.
Can you tell if the sound is coming?
There was once a girl who lived at the heart of a beautiful forest. Her name was Greta. One morning, things weren't quite as they should be. Greta stepped out into her yard, and there, huddled together in the shadows of the trees, were all the animals of the forest. A soft and silvery brown wolf stepped forward, with his tail low to the ground. Please help us, he whispered. The forest is broken. We don't know where to go. The giants are ruining our home. The giants had always been there for as long as Greta could remember, but now they were worse than ever. They were huge, lumbering oafs and were always busy. They chopped down trees to build homes. Then they chopped down more trees to build bigger homes. The houses grew into towns, and the towns grew into cities. They built factories and shops and cars and planes. They worked all day and all night until eventually there was hardly any forest left. But the greedy giants had forgotten how wonderful the forest was. They didn't see all the little birds and bugs and butterflies and bears that trembled in the shadows. And no one told them to stop because everyone was scared of them. Everyone except Greta. "Will you help us?" asked the wolf. Greta looked around her. The animals looked tired and sad. She had to help them. But how? Then Greta had an idea. The next morning, Greta stood in the middle of the forest and waited for the giants to come. She stood alone, holding a big sign. The sign said, "Stop." She waited and waited. On the first day, the giants didn't see her and lumbered on by. On the second day and the third too. But on the fourth day, something strange happened. A little boy who had been watching Greta made a sign and came out and sat next to her. He didn't say much, but Greta knew he felt like she did. Soon, more people and animals saw what they were doing and joined in too. "Save our forest. Help. Our home is on fire. Who will help?" Listen. Before long, a huge crowd filled the forest, stretching out to the city and the roads beyond. They stood together and waited. The crowd was so huge that the giants were stopped in their tracks. "Please stop," Greta cried. "Your greedy behavior is spoiling our home. You've broken the trees and trampled the flowers, and now the bees and birds have flown away. These animals are homeless, and our forest is dying." After Greta had spoken, everything was silent. But then everyone in the crowd began to shout too. "The smoke from your fires is choking the air. And please stop cutting down the trees. You can help plant some new ones and mend my home. We need to take care of the forest and live together. Will you please try?" The giants shuffled and fidgeted and stomped their feet on the ground. They were embarrassed and a little bit sad. You see, the giants were so busy, they didn't see what they were doing to the forest and the animals who lived there. The giants felt terrible. "We're sorry," they said, and they promised to try harder. So from that day on, the greedy giants weren't so greedy. They slowed down and learned to sit quietly. They stopped working all the time and instead took up some new hobbies. They stopped chopping down trees and learned all about gardening and living in the forest. They cooked and repaired and tidied and shared. But before long, the forest became more beautiful than they could have ever imagined. The end.
I now invite you into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place your hand over your heart to be able to listen from this heart-centered place. As I place stones into the bowl, please share your joys and sorrows in the chat that we may hear from the community gathered here. As I drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may all be held in the heart of love.
Decades ago, Albert Camus wrote, "The only means of fighting a plague is common decency." We are living through a time that asks us to stock up on compassion, to have enough gentleness to give to those who may be on the verge of falling apart. As we stock up on compassion to make it through this historic time, it is fitting to remember that if your compassion doesn't include yourself, it is incomplete. Notice the support of the ground beneath your feet. Feel the support of your seat. Let the muscles in your face relax. Allow that relaxation to descend through your body. Feel free to close your eyes or lower your gaze as we turn inward, practicing compassion to ourselves. Notice your breath. Explore breathing in what you need, breathing out what you don't need. Breathe in what you need, breathe out what you don't need. Breathe in compassion, breathe out frustration. Breathe in peace, breathe out worry. Breathe in love, breathe out fear. Breathe in love. Continue at your own rhythm. Breathe in what you need. Breathe out what you don't need. Continue at your own comfort for a moment of quiet meditation.
Let us sing together now our hymn of contemplation, Find a Stillness. Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Letter from Our Better Angels by Sean Parker Dennison. Dear one, we have received your letter, and we hate to tell you, not so much hate, but are a bit afraid to say we cannot grant your request as stated, but can only remind you of familiar things. First, faith. Faith in yourself and trust in others. We know it can be terrifying to be vulnerable, but only when you share your softest side will we be able to break through. Next, hope. Hope is not an empty fairy tale. Hope is the true story of all the times human beings like you have found a way to create the future, though you didn't know how. And of course, love. Love, the demands you cherish all people, not just yourself and safety. Love that is not satisfied until every argument ends abruptly when one child says, "That hurts." There is so much to learn and relearn. The world teaches you to be hard, to negotiate and defend, to avoid giving too much and to the wrong people. There are no wrong people. You also are not wrong. And when you encounter the poor, the broken, the unhoused and unwelcome, you are looking, if you pay attention, at us, calling to you, calling you to answer your own prayers. If you want to change the world, First, be sure you are changing yourself. Be tender, be kind, be at peace. Be all the things you wish for. Be your own better self. It isn't without cost, but it is free. When I joined the team last year to rework First Universalist's children's faith development policies, I was reminded of the recent Ruth Bader Ginsburg biopic On the Basis of Sex, a movie that hinges on the evolution of justice and equality before the law. A pivotal scene follows Ruth and her teenage daughter, Jane, walking down a city street framed by construction in 1971, at the beginning of Ruth's career as a litigator. When white guys in hard hats hurl catcalls at them, Jane throws back an unabashed scolding. Ruth marvels at this, knowing that when she was Jane's age, she would have never dared to call out misogynistic street harassment. Ruth is struck with the revelation that radical social change had already happened. Ideas about justice and how to fight for it had evolved. In the movie, Jane showed her mom how far society had come, how far the arc of history had bent toward justice. And that gave her mom the confidence to attack the many laws that discriminated on the basis of sex. Much as we in the United States needed and still need to revise discriminatory laws, here at our church, we've been changing the way we think about children's ministry. In working to update our children's faith development policies, like Justice Ginsburg, we found that the lessons driving us to reevaluate our standards were lessons learned from our kids. The last time our church revised our children's faith development policies and procedures was the year 2002. So we had our work cut out for us. Most of our revision work was straightforward. We still needed fire drills and volunteers and registration forms and first aid procedures. So for many of our policies, we just updated to reflect our current procedures. Some policies were so outdated, however, that they just needed to be removed. We had some quaint ideas about how to use email in 2002, for example, and those policies just needed to go. We also had some ideas about disciplinary procedures that just needed to go. We had a harsh policy stating that if a child disrupts children's worship, the grown-up gives one verbal warning, and if the problem continues, the child is removed. In 2020, we decided we could do better. We decided our faith, a faith that calls us to be kind to all people, asks us to do better. Our second Unitarian Universalist principle upholds compassion in human relations. Our second principle asks us to be kind. Ideas about how to practice kindness evolve, and our policies should evolve with them. In my many years as a religious education teacher, I have been blessed with some magical experiences. I have led children's worship when a neatly spaced circle of children sat wrapped in our story. I have led children's worship when the kids raised their hands and waited to be called on, and their comments were easy to interpret, and those comments took the discussion exactly where I wanted it to go. I have been in children's worship when our movement activities were full of grace and cooperation and awareness of the bodies and the furniture and the walls around us so that no one ran into anything. But even with my memory misty from missing our kids so much these days when church has left the building, I have to admit, most of the time, children's worship isn't perfect. The grown-ups aren't perfect. The kids aren't perfect. Sometimes I've even seen edges of behavior that give me insight into why our 2002 policy existed. It can be easier to turn away from a problem than try to understand it. Understanding others is a profound act of kindness. Practicing kindness in children's worship requires learning about the kids in it. Our kids may or may not have the words to tell us what's going on inside them. Oftentimes, behavior is a kid's primary way of communicating, and interpreting that behavior isn't always easy. Adding to the communication challenge is the tendency for the kids who need the most love to ask for it in the most unloving ways. A kid's behavior may be a way of expressing anger, confusion, fear, exhaustion, grief, pain. Or, as one kid who couldn't sit contained during our story told me, I just have a lot of extra energy this morning. Even though it isn't always easy, understanding a problem offers a roadmap towards solutions grounded in compassion. Sometimes kids may have a hard time communicating verbally, but sometimes they can articulate lots of wisdom. Our kids at church have taught me that wisdom is much more than a function of age and experience. Being a grown-up in children's worship carries plenty of responsibilities, but being the sole source of wisdom isn't one of them. A truly wise religious education teacher solicits and employs the wisdom of the kids. Creating a space for the kids to share their wisdom builds community and hones their ability to relate to each other. Rather than exploiting our power as grown-ups and calling all the shots, we can empower the kids to help us and each other. When both kids and grown-ups are teachers and learners together, finding solutions is a team effort, and the synergy can expand everyone's worldview. Our church's 2002 disciplinary policy was outdated because the arc of history has bent toward kindness. Kindness has evolved, and as is so often the case, it is our kids who show us how far we've come. Our UU principles call us to reform and revitalize our policies instead of becoming stuck in our ways, and the voices of kids can lead the way. When I've been with Unitarian Universalist youth at youth conferences around the state and at our faith-based summer camp, UURoc, I've witnessed them living our UU faith in radical ways. Our youth are welcoming and considerate, and they strive to help each other feel safe. When they describe the community they create in those spaces, I hear the word healthy a lot. This community of UU youth teaches the tools of kindness, how to ask, how to listen, how to help. Those are the tools of kindness. This community enabled me to practice asking inclusive questions like, my name is Tess and my pronouns are she, her, hers. What's your name? Because of these UU youth, the way I introduce myself has changed since 2002. Kindness has evolved. Like most things in life, the more we practice, the better we get. Kindness can be taught. Like Greta and her friends taught the giants with their signs, stop, listen, help. Kindness can be taught. Getting the words right can be taught. The more we practice these tools of kindness, asking, listening, helping, the better we get, no matter how old we are. To practice empathy, we ask things like, you seem sad, is everything okay? You seem unable to sit still, what's going on? What do you think might solve this problem? And then we listen. We make the time and space to listen. We affirm what we hear and do what we can to help, saying things like, I see how you feel. I'm here for you. In this place, we help each other. I want to ease your pain. Tools of kindness can be used to help a kid who's having difficulty sitting still. These same tools of kindness, asking, listening, helping, these tools of our second UU principle are also fundamental to social justice. Striving for social justice is how we practice kindness on a macro scale. Social justice action requires the empathetic work of learning about individuals and communities who face injustice. We enter into conversations so we can understand the problem. We read work by marginalized people. We discern historical truths. We seize opportunity fire brings us. We go to the Eunice Eckberg films. Empathetic learning empowers our social justice work. There is a reason our second Unitarian Universalist principle, where we uphold compassion in our human relations, comes before our sixth principle, the one where we strive for a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. The arc of history has given this church right now children who carry wisdom and compassion. Even when behavior is challenging or unexpected, our kids are reliably kind. Even when our lumbering giants out there spread hate and meanness, our kids are kind. And from my experience as a school teacher in a variety of communities, most kids are kind. Almost all of them believe in kindness and know that being kind makes them feel good. Even if their kindness skills are rough when they come into their school communities, most are ready, willing, and able to hone those kindness skills. Here in our church community, when we gather with our kids who are already proficient in using the tools of kindness, we owe it to them to lift up kindness in turn. So, rather than removing a child, at our church, the grown-ups will now affirm that child's inherent worth and dignity by asking, listening, helping. And we'll coach the other kids to ask, listen, and use their wisdom to help. To help our friend who came into children's worship with a lot of extra energy, one of our kids suggested we look into getting a special seat cushion, one designed for wigglers. We haven't gotten the seat cushion yet, but here's the thing. The thoughtful suggestion itself seemed to have a calming effect. Kindness can be transformative. There is an old Japanese saying, one kind word can warm 3 winter months. There is an old Russian saying, a kind word is like a spring day. The world over, humanity calls us to be gentle with others, to be kinder than necessary, to be on the lookout for people who need help. Our second principle affirms it. A kind word is like a spring day. People of all ages are in more pain than we can see. Kindness is a powerful healer. When bad things happen, Mr. Rogers advised children to look for the helpers. But what I know from being around kids in our Unitarian Universalist faith community is that so often they are the helpers. Our kids can be the helpers because our faith gives them practice helping. Our kids are the empathetic elite. Our kids are the listeners. Our kids are the allies who lift up voices that might otherwise be drowned out by hate, fear, or ignorance. Growing up in our UU faith empowers our young people to be kind. And being kind is the most fundamental peace and justice work. Practicing kindness nurtures and mobilizes moral courage, and that is how we make the world. This beautiful blue boat we all share a better place. Our final hymn is 1064, Blue Boat Home. We invite you to remain muted and sing out joyfully from home, again creating a collective song from wherever you are on this blue boat.
As we extinguish our flame this morning, let us read together the words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again.
Seated next to one another, we are still connected in this community. As we come to the end of our service, I invite you to follow the benediction with the words, Amen for kindness. Please join in typing these words in the chat together. As you prepare to leave this sacred space and travel onward today on our blue boat, hold kindness in your heart so that you can be gentle with yourself and share compassion with others. Hold the sure knowledge that kindness will shape our future. And let the people of the church say, Amen for kindness.
Amen for kindness.